Obviously, we were making a big song and dance just this last week, all about the local elections that were going on in England, Wales, and in Scotland as well. But the really big area to watch, as we said last night, was what was going to happen in Northern Ireland. And of course, obviously, the counting in Northern Ireland takes longer because they use the single transferable vote method over there. So obviously, it takes a bit longer to announce those votes. And officially now the results have been, well, they came in yesterday, but it's what we all were pretty much expecting. It's what the polls were very much and clearly indicating, that the DUP were on track to make historic losses, certainly over there, and Sinn Féin came in first. Well, as people have rightly said, it's a historic win. And of course, the future of what will happen in Northern Ireland, will this lead to a border poll? Who knows? It's difficult to say. If it did, they've got a lot of work to do. Because, as we keep on saying, just because you think there's a united Ireland does not stop the very much likelihood of trouble still happening in Northern Ireland. Because remember, you've got Republican terrorists and you've got Unionist terrorists as well. And we have seen in the past, well, couple of years, the riots over that were from Unionist terrorists. And of course, there is the other interesting situation where, obviously, if Northern Ireland again rejoins with Ireland and becomes part of their parliament, the DUP will become not a major force in Irish politics, but with about between, I think it's like 12 to 14% of the vote they could possibly take. There is very much a chance that they could unite with other very, very pro Irish religious factions over there and start causing some serious trouble in Irish politics, almost certainly for progressives and other things like that. So do not think that this idea of republicanism, unionism is settled just because there is a reunification. It won't be. It would be far from over. The DUP will even probably say that themselves. But obviously, the big question is what happens now, and that is the real question. Me myself, I'm asking right now, because we don't know what might happen. In the next couple of weeks or so. The DUP have been very clear that the Northern Ireland Protocol needs to go, but what exactly are they going to do, and how are they going to react? Might they just refuse to go into power sharing until that is gone? Might they go into power sharing but say, unless you get with this within this certain time frame, we're just going to pull out of the agreement? We really don't know. We really do not know what could happen here. So it is all up in the air. This is complete crystal ball gazing. But we've got this really good article from The Guardian that basically asks this exact question: what happens next? So before we do go jumping into that, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there's a link to my Patreon page and one invitation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help support the channel. So let's find out what happens next in Northern Ireland. So, the formation of a new executive in Northern Ireland Assembly could take up to at least 6 months, under the laws designed to keep the Stormont functioning in the event of a further crisis over Brexit. However, there could be another election in the early winter after the DUP have made very clear that after the election results on Friday that it would not re-enter the executive without changes to the Northern Ireland Protocol, even if the final outcome were to put it at the top of the polls. The amendment made to the Northern Ireland Act in February this year are aimed at trying to preserve the Assembly collapsing as it did in 2017 after a rift between the Sinn Féin and DUP. They gave the elected representatives up to at least 6-week window, 24 weeks in all, to try and select an executive which sits in the cabinet at the top of their assembly. Senior sources at the DUP say that they cannot re-enter Stormont with the checks in place in goods in the Irish Sea remaining, and Boris Johnson needs to realise the damage when they say what is doing to the Good Friday Agreement. But of course, we've been talking about this since 2016. Even 2015 when this was first coming up. But of course, people like Boris Johnson, all these other Brexiteers turned around and said, this isn't going to be a problem. Because again, at their time, they were saying, well, we're going to stay in the single market and customs union, which again does solve a lot of these problems. So, what happens next? Well, the Assembly must meet within at least 8 days of the election and is expected to sit on Thursday or Tuesday of next week. The 90 elected ministers must then sign and register to declare whether they are unionist, nationalist, or other under the power sharing system in place. Unlike Scotland or Wales, of course, and the UK national government, where the largest party can form a government, the Northern Ireland Assembly requires at least a coalition of the two largest parties of the different delegations in order to form a dissolved government. This is known as the co-societal, the political system designed for countries with major individual internal divisions. So, how is the next stage organised? The party with the largest number of seats must nominate a first minister, and the second largest gets to nominate a deputy first minister. That would be the DUP. The posts are then equal and designed to continuous off rank. If the event of a tie, the number of seats won, the first minister post will go to the party with the most first preferential votes. So, is there any room for some horse trading? This is where it could get interesting. Yes. Elected members can switch party right up to the day they signed that register, which the DUP or even Sinn Féin could try and lure independents into their camp in an event that they are just one or just two seats between them. And I would expect that to be happening now. Almost certainly the DUP and even Sinn Féin are going to be trying to try and target some of these independents. So once the First Minister and the Deputy First Minister are nominated, the ministers are then appointed throughout the so-called Honda formula, which associates the department according to the relative weighting of each parties in the election. The Justice Minister is the exception because that must be appointed with cross-party community support. The executive then drafts a programme for the government and, of course, the associated budget, which must then be approved by the Assembly of elected members. So how long is this going to take? Well, it's going to take at least 6 weeks from the day that they first meet. And then this is the key one. What happens if one party decides not to appoint a deputy first minister? Well, a fresh crisis will ensue. But a partial executive can limp on for at least up to 24 weeks. Initially, members have 6 weeks to form an executive, and the new Northern Ireland Deputy in Departments, Elections and Petitions of Concern Act of 2002 does allow for 3 successive 6 weeks talks extension to that deadline. The DUP have refused so far to give it a commitment that it would nominate a deputy first minister if he were to take second place. It has also indicated that it will not return to the executive without the removal of the Irish Sea checks. So that's the two things that we are taking away really here. That we are potentially going to see the DUP refuse to go into government, or if they do go into government, they could, well, start throwing their toys out of the pram just to start wrecking all this. That is the key thing, and that is the worry here. So, and this, of course, we're going to jump forward a bit because obviously it talks about First Minister, but we already know that. But this is the big one here. So, what happens if there is no fully functioning executive after 24 weeks? Well, the ministers in place would then lose their office, and the Northern Ireland Secretary would be legally obliged under the UK Northern Ireland Act to name a date for another second election. That election has to take place within 12 weeks of that announcement. So we could get into a system here, which is the big worry about this, of these election results just get repeated every single time, and yet the DUP just refuse to take power unless a second party can somehow gain a big enough majority to become the second biggest party, and then just knock the DUP out of this, out of the power sharing agreement. But that's where this becomes the issue of the DUP have so far, as stated there, refused to even go back to the Assembly as long as the Northern Ireland Protocol is there. They've might just go in and just start, wrecking things from the start. We just don't know at this point in time. And of course, there is the worry, of course, that Johnson and the Brexiteers will use this as an excuse to go to the EU and go, oh, look, the Northern Ireland Protocol is causing cultural and regional damage and is not fit for purpose. We've got to get rid of it. But of course, we always knew this was going to happen. This was been on the cards since the beginning. We've been warning about this. And yet, Brexiteers, you can go back to 2016 and see them say that this is just not going to be an issue. Katie Hoey, saying on live TV on the BBC that this Northern Ireland issue is not going to be an issue. Boris Johnson in live TV debates said this as well. Why? Because their position at the time, as we said, was a broad one. To get them across the line, they knew they had to be as broad as possible, and that meant, we'll leave the European Union, but we'll stay in the customs market, customs union and single market. Again, that would have kept sort of things as they were, and it would have kept obviously the Good Friday Agreement intact. There wouldn't have needed to have been a border, not only again between the North and South, but neither in the Irish Sea. It would have solved a lot of problems. But this is obviously going to be very interesting. I'll almost certainly see how this plays out in the next couple of weeks and months. Hopefully we can have this sorted out. If not, then we might just be seeing a continuous cycle of just elections, this 24-week period, and then another election, it could get very, very, very messy over there, and the DUP know it. But unless another party can go in there and start taking enough votes to at least knock the DUP out of second place, we really don't know. This is very much crystal ball gazing at this moment in time, but we'll have to see what happens. So, as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. And of course, let me know down below what you think might happen in this situation. So, as always, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.